Hello, sweet feral friends. It's your pal Nemo here. Just wanted to record a quick little intro for this episode. Lux and I didn't get want to make one together, and I want to get this episode out. We're kind of starting things back up. It has been a while. It had been a while at the time of recording this episode, which we'll mention. But we recorded this in September of 2025. It is now March of 2026. Um, we've missed you quite a bit. We've still been hanging out. We're still good buds, but we have shifted priorities to some other things in our lives. We're still going to be making episodes. Don't worry, you'll get new ones soon. We do have the Queen of Cups coming up, and we plan on recording the episode for the Emperor very soon. Um, but yeah, life happens. Um, But again, we miss you. We miss doing the podcast. We'll be back at it again soon. We had a lot of fun recording this episode. I'm really excited to share it with you. So I guess, without further ado, let's get into the Empress.
It's a pretty card.
It is a pretty card, yeah. The colors on it are, I think, Lon Milo Duquette in his
The
mention.
The cool colors immediately lower my blood pressure.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly what I was thinking of. Yeah, it is definitely a pretty and calming card, which I feel like its energy is a little more like voracious than the cool and calm colors imply. But I think there is like a tranquility in its veracity. When I think of the Empress, I think of plants growing, like just the that like reaching towards the sun, and like a lust for life, kind of.
Yeah, I mean it's Mother Nature to me. I
Yeah.
guess and there's so many facets of that, many of which I have thoughts on. So it'll be fun to get into. But yeah, it's Mother Nature and all of her glory and veracity and all that entails.
I think we got to touch on the Empress a little bit when we were talking about the High Priestess, about how like the High Priestess kind of is reaching out towards the like beyond the abyss down into the reflection of like the waters or whatever, towards Tiferet, which is what its path implies. And then I think I'd said like that the Empress is just kind of, or has from that kind of same energy, reaches out with like again, kind of a lust feeling to it, like a desire to expand and to grow, which I think a lot of the literature kind of confirms too.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which path, because when I was reading this, we talked about how the High Priestess is a card that's above the abyss, but then this is still one of the supernal triad of like the pathways that are still above that place. Whereas the High Priestess is the pathway that kind of traverses it. The Empress is the door.
The door from 2 to 3 or 3 to 2, depending on how you look at it. The way that I'm imagining it forming is it goes from 3 to 2. I see it like taking place after 3 comes into existence. So it like is that like, yeah, path from 3 to 2, where 3 has understanding and 2 being wisdom. It's kind of like the
3 being the sphere. So we're talking about like the tarot cards are the relationships between the spheres.
Right.
So even though the Empress is card 3, she is representative of the path that connects Hokmah, wisdom, to Binah, understanding. Which is that the horizontal path?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Very
It's
balanced.
the base of the triangle.
Yes.
It's the completion of that triangle at the top.
There's like something sensual to that, just completion.
There is. Another comment from Lon Milo Duquette is the Empress is the hallway that the queen tiptoes to the bedchamber of the king in. So it's kind of like how one divided itself, Keter divided itself into 2 and 3. Dalet, that path, the Empress, is like an immediate like reunification. It's like, holy shit, look at what we just did.
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. Exactly, yeah. And then like it kind of from there spills into everything else.
Yeah, that's a really perfect like visualization, I think, of the dynamics in that. Like it's fun to think of the cards. It's not just like a kind of stagnant archetype, but like they're in flux, their movement, they're like, and that pathway really conceptualizes that.
Yeah.
And she's so green. It's such a verdant, like it's like one of those like living hallways with like all the branches and the grassways. Like if you've ever gone through one of those, when the light shines through all that green, it's very like magical.
Yeah. One of the visualizations that comes to mind when I'm like contemplating this card is light going through leaves and just like being surrounded by vines and like plants and being like enveloped in greenery and just like almost like you can see the plants like moving around too and like growing and expanding and like reaching out at things and like vibing and breathing and
Yeah, it's like the time what you're describing reminds me of like times I've been on mushrooms, and like I feel like the plants are like moving in ways that I would normally not be able to perceive, but like there's like these subtle kind of like shifts and enveloping, and you're like, oh, like there's like an aliveness there that I'm not typically able to perceive, but it's there.
Totally.
Yeah.
There's a Zen koan that it makes me think of, who is the master who makes the grass grow green, and the Empress is. I don't think that's the answer to the koan, but
It fits.
It's what comes up for me.
It fits, yeah. In Lon Milo Duquette's description of this, they talk a lot about how the Empress is also like representative of Venus, which I think is a facet of Venus that I guess I don't like. I think maybe not comes to top of mind first, of this like creative like motherhood aspect. And it's sort of very effective thinking about that pathway of like bridging the sensuality with like that stability and nurturance of like motherhood. Like it's that pathway.
Totally. Yeah, I think it's I think the Venus comes in as like, yeah, it's the divine feminine in its like engaged aspect, whereas like the high priestess would be kind of a disengaged, like wholly focused on God sort of mentality, whereas this is like the Holy Mother kind of like reaching out into existence and engaging with everything and like giving life to things, not as like cold and like isolated.
Detachment. Yeah. I was thinking about how when we talked about the high priestess, I was at the time looking through the Women Who Run with Wolves. So I was very like, oh, the wild woman archetype. And we sort of, I think, had like different perspectives on that. But I was thinking about like way back when I had some little course I did on like feminine archetypes. And I think that was when I initially had been exposed to the idea of like wild woman, like Artemis, almost like of the hunt, the independent, like the original meaning of the word like virgin, like belonging to herself. That archetype. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Cause like, I think the like maiden, mother, and crone is like the triad that I was most familiar with. And I was like, if the high priestess was like the wild woman kind of isolated, like to herself, like detachment, like of the abyss, and then the Empress could be like the mother. And then I started thinking about like, I wonder how the other ones would track. Like obviously there's overlap, but like where would we see like the crone or the maiden, perhaps, if we were to pick one?
I think my just like initial like gut reaction answer to that is I think the high priestess would be the maiden, like kind of yeah, belonging to herself. Like you said, there's that virginal aspect. There's like I'm imagining like a maiden whose focus before marriage is like on God or something, or on like a
On God.
specific thing. On God though. And then yeah, I think the Empress would definitely be the mother. And I think the crone would be like Bina itself. That's the first thing that comes up to me, because Bina has this like, I don't know, Bina is also kind of like it encompasses all of those, but I mean so does the crone, because the crone was at once the mother and the maiden, and like there's a darkness to Bina. There's like a beastliness to it, kind of.
Yeah.
Bina can be a little bit scary and like monstrous.
She's not a card, though, is she?
She's not a card, though. So yeah, let's go ahead and put in. That's a good point to bring up. Well, then in that case, we got to look at like the moon specifically. I think because that the mother, maiden, and crone kind of refers to Hecate and refers to the moon in its phases, the waxing full and waning. So what are the manifestations of the moon? So I think the manifestations of the moon, I've heard the star being considered part of that, though it's attributed to Aquarius, and then the moon is Pisces in as far as the moon card goes. I definitely see. So I've read about the high priestess being like the highest aspect of the moon. Yeah, like pinning it to Mother Maiden Crone's kind of.
It is. I mean, it doesn't map perfectly. When you said star, I was like, oh yeah, I was thinking the star too, because I was just my gut instincts. I was like, if I were to track the high priestess as like the wild woman archetype, which maybe we can agree to disagree, but I'm gonna stick with that one. But I was like, maybe the star. Then I guess I was thinking of the maiden, even the imagery of it, what it like feels like to me, like my personal association with the star card. I was like, that feels like that tracks for me. Like if I were going to pick one, I would pick the star for maiden. And then maybe it's heretical, but hearing you say like Bina is like beastly, I was like, maybe this tracks. I was like, what about the devil for the crown? Like because often it's seen as like Saturn, I think is often seen as like a masculine entity, but I think traditionally, if you go far enough back, it was like a feminine presence, because it was like death, and Saturn is like death and taxes, like those things you can't escape. The devil card is this kind of like I don't know, something about that just I was intriguing to me, that association. I don't know if any of that tracks for you and your vibes with those energies.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm still finding it hard to pin Mother Maiden and Crone as like aspects. I'm like super attached to the idea of it as it being the moon. But I mean, like there's a resonance there for me of like, yeah, it is Saturnian. It's also Capricorn, which is my sun resonance. I think that there is going back to the Empress in Jodorowsky's interpretation of the Marseille Tarot, he points out that the Empress has an Adam's apple to represent like the core masculinity of the divine feminine, like the yang within the yin. And there's always like I feel like if you can always flip the gender of the cards, or if you like look deep enough into them, you can see the other polarity of it. So like long rambling story short, that there's like a resonance to me, and like that, yeah, you could like flip that like very, especially like when you look at Crowley's or the Thoth Tarot's devil card, where like it's a
Yeah.
penis in the background basically, like
Yeah.
or like it's a phallus, but I mean like there's you have very clearly like two testicles and then like a phallus in the background
Yeah,
with the
that's
goat in front. But like that would be kind of a tricksy kind of thing to do, is like,
Well,
look,
Baphomet also has some big titties
yeah,
traditionally too.
yeah, and
So it's
Baphomet
like,
is
yeah.
like a combination of both of those things. And the devil card is also resonant with the lover's card too,
Yes.
being what is 15. And then I've been getting really into the numerology of the cards recently as like a way to interpret them.
It's interesting hearing the sounds.
Yeah, there's some kind of like trying to figure out if it's like a crazy person or a protest going on. Both happen in this neighborhood, so.
Yeah. Did
And
you hear a beeping?
Yeah, that's someone's car. Oh, that sounds like a fire alarm going
Hopefully
off.
it's not in this building.
Yeah, right.
We're just podcasts at the end of the world.
I mean, this is fine.
This is fine.
Yeah. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so
The numerology.
we
of
were talking
it,
about
yeah.
the numerology. Yeah, so like, yeah, the devil is kind of a reflection of the lovers, which is all about the interaction and like commingling of the two polarities of gender.
Yeah.
Baphomet traditionally is like a symbol of duality within one thing. There's a longer story short. There's a big resonance for me with what you're saying of
Yeah.
like the devil being like the crone. I could definitely see that. But the devil being like super tied to Binah.
Yeah, and the Saturnian aspect. I think I'll have to see if I can find it. I read something that was pretty comprehensive as far as like here are the resonances of this kind of energy being feminine, even though it's I think more talked about as like Saturn as like a mass. Like I feel like I don't know if it's Jupiter or Saturn. I feel like people have really latched on to like maybe it's Jupiter. I'm thinking of like Daddy Jupiter people. I'm like ugh, but like I get it. But Saturn as this like the timekeeper, like it's there's a discipline aspect to it that has a sort of parental and I think some people interpret as like punishing element, but it's also like yeah, if you think of it as like the Capricorn, there's like a playfulness too of the hedonism in the devil card and like a triumphant feeling of like yeah, you're gonna get wrapped up in like some human temptation and like you're gonna commingle and like because the devil card I also think about as addiction and it's like the lovers with like their like handcuffs almost where but they're like loose. It's like you feel like you're tied, you feel like you're in bondage, but like
But you could just choose to slip out of it if you
right.
wanted to, yeah.
But like
It's like BDSM. It's
yeah,
like,
but you don't.
yeah, no, you don't want to because you're having fun.
Until you're not, and then you're like, okay, no, and then that's
Red.
when, yep, and then that's when you get to come out of it and think about what did we learn in life and in scenes. And I'm working on a tarot deck now. I think I mentioned to you, and the devil is the first one that I'm doing because it's like I feel like it would be boring if I was like, I'm going to start from here and do these ones. Like I thought in my head I would do it that way. And what actually happens is I'm like, I found this really good imagery and I found this really good imagery and these kind of go together. And now I just need like, I feel like I need an element to represent this. And then I find that I'm like, it's perfect.
Yeah, it's coming together in
Yeah.
front of you. Like, go with that.
Yeah. So the first one I have that's coming together is the devil card. And I found this image of like two people very like entangled on a park bench. Like you can't even see their faces. They're just like kind of smushed together. And there's an old woman like on the other side of the bench just like knitting.
That's very fitting.
Yeah. And I was like, and then I had a really good goat to kind of like rearing on its hind legs behind them. And I remembered, I was like, I'm pretty sure months ago, a long time ago, I had a tiny little image of Saturn that I had cut out for something else and didn't use. And I was like, where is that? And I found it. I found it in all my little scraps. I was like, I can't believe I both remembered I had this and found it. And it's also the perfect size. So now I have like Saturn is knitting, just minding her own business.
Oh, hell yeah.
With the devil figure and these lovers just absolutely entwined in this park bench. And yeah, so I don't like that feels like the crone to me now. It's like Saturn the crone, just like watching you have your human experience and like, oh honey, like I'll make you some soup when it's all over.
I love that. I'm really curious about. We're talking a lot about Saturn and the devil in this so far.
Oh, yeah.
I know this is the Empress episode, but I want to know more about the representations of Saturn as a feminine figure, because like that's something I've always kind of like, I guess, wrestled with to some degree. Is like you have Bina, the divine mother, Babylon, like all those things tied up to the sphere of Saturn. And then all of these reputations, you have like Kronos, Saturn, the Roman god. I guess those would be like the two big ones that I think of for like Saturn, but it's like always kind of a masculine father time figure, like.
Yeah, father time. Mm-hmm.
But wouldn't mother time make more sense, being that like time is kind of like a matrix that we exist within too?
Yeah. I'll have to see if I can find that piece of writing, or reach out to the person who I think wrote it. Cause it was a pretty comprehensive, like I said. I was like, I'm convinced. I've internalized this as part of my worldview. But yeah, it's something that I just sort of like inherently feel as, like this tracks for me now. And yeah, if you think of, I think a lot of it just comes from like if people have already internalized one aspect of that polarity, like if you think of like space and time as like different things, and then like, oh well, we already have space as like the matrix of the mother of like the material world, then like, well then who's gonna play the dad in the house? Like we need father time. Like it's that kind of like, well we need the other side of this, and it's like when they're both interacting, and like I think we both have more nuanced take of like gender and like the overlaps with that, like it becomes a lot more easier and more fun to be like, okay, well like how is it both? Like where is it both? Like where do they trade places? Where do they intermingle? Yeah, because I think they are both a matrix. They are both aspects of like physical reality, which yeah, tracks.
Totally. And like you get even more scientific about it. There's like space-time as a concept, like space
both.
and time bend together when you have big enough mass or whatever, which I'm not a physicist. I don't think you are either, but like that's the understanding that I've kind of gotten of it too, is like they're very closely tied together, if not kind of the same thing.
It's that image of like kind of like a divot in like space. There's like a matrix that kind of bends around. Yes. Yeah. And that is like the way that things shifts is you based on how fast you're going and how far away they are. And yes, neither of us. I'm not a physicist. But
someone's explained that marble on the blanket concept to both of us, and it fits.
And it fits, yeah. Just take our word for it. Like put a marble on a blanket, and you too can understand. And it's like that toroidal. Like I understand toroids because it's like I love donuts. Like it's just think of a donut. Like,
I watched something really recently about toroids, and someone explaining like the fourth dimension, and they did a really great job of it. It was this like millennial with blue hair and hella piercings, who was like, of course, a doctor of physics, because that's what doctors of physics look like now. Is us. She was talking about how a toroid or like a tesseract would work, and like it made sense in a way that I had never like. I mean, I guess I had enough background for it to make sense because of other people explaining it to me, but like there was like a period of like, oh, okay, that's what they mean by like how the tesseract folds like kind of folds out of itself like a toroid. It's just a cubical toroid, basically.
I think that I'll have to like Google that and see. But I'm like, okay, yeah, I think I know the tesseract.
Yeah, the tesseract is like a hypercube.
Okay.
I'll just pull up a GIF for you right now.
Ooh, it's a GIF.
Yeah, because it's moving, because it's 4-dimensional. You can't represent it as a static 3-dimensional image.
Love that.
And then also it's just great because the first exposure I had to tesseract was from A Wrinkle in Time. Did you ever read that one? Highly recommend it. It's a children's book, but it like still tracks and has a lot of really great material. I think it's kind of Christian based, but like so is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and that's pretty dope too.
Okay, I think I was thinking of something else, but this is a very it's like a toroid but a cube.
Yeah.
Is it the same idea, or is it a different like mathematical representation of something kind of adjacent?
I don't.
It's like a square. What I'm looking at is a GIF of like a square, like a cube birthing itself, I guess is what I'm imagining. Like it's kind of like, pushing itself out and then becoming the cube again, anew.
Yeah. And it's like moving like a torus would move. And I don't know how exactly that relates to the fourth dimension. That's where my like understanding kind of clicks off. But yeah, remember how I got onto that.
Do we feel like this is like the hallway through which, like if we were to imagine a hallway through which you would tiptoe to your above the abyss lover, is it moving like through here? Like are you in it and then you become the hallway? Because this one, it's something about seeing it as a cube just is bringing me back to like the hallway.
I guess so,
idea.
yeah, because
it's like almost like it's like a birth like canal, like.
Yeah,
I don't know. There's something
like
sensual about the hypercube.
Totally.
Would you fuck the hypercube? The real question is, can you fuck the hypercube twice?
Can I fuck a hypercube? Is that But like, I mean, yeah, that does kind of there's something resonant that came up for me with that when you said it. Like, do you become the hallway? Because as soon as 2 and 3 reunite, they turn back into 1, which is everything. Mm-hmm. So there is no hallway. Or there is, but like it's all just the one. But that element of like everything being one and that reunification of 2 and 3, there's like an expansion above and below the abyss with that one. I feel like it's like a white hole. I forget what the term for that is.
Like instead of a black hole.
Yeah, where like matter is just spraying, or not matter. Is it matter? I don't know. But there's the concept of like if you turn on your faucet and like have it hit a flat surface, it just splatters out everywhere, and then you have that perfect middle where there's like nothing. Or like I forget what they're called, but like when there's like I don't think it's a supernova, but like the quasar where they like shoot out from both directions. I just sent myself on a little spin. I don't know what I'm talking about.
We should learn more about space.
Yeah. We should ditch tarot and just start getting into astrophysics.
Yeah.
This is now
the feral astrophysics. The feral part is we have no idea what we're saying.
Yeah. We're just making up as we go along.
Quasars.
I think they're called quasars. I don't know. It's called the Jim Jam.
This, to go back to the Empress and I guess things of the earthly varietal, which I have a little more grasp on. We talked a little bit about the imagery, I guess, of the vibe of the Empress card in the Thoth, which is very like luscious and verdant, and the Mother Nature vibe. I was excited to show you the rust belt for this one. Yeah. I'm just going to show it to you. You can give me your impressions, and then we can talk about it. Because it's kind of still Mother Nature, but she's something else. So I can tell you more about it, but...
Okay, I'm going to describe for everyone what I'm seeing, and then I really like this. Let me see. She has 7 spires on her crown, 7 for Venus. which is resonant. She's like standing in a vulva or like a birth canal. I don't know what she's sitting on, but it's like she's sitting on a tuft of, it could be like a tree with fruit. It looks like something fruiting or flowering. And there's like a head as like the background that's like either enwrapped in sensuality or like sleeping. The Empress has no face either, which is something that I really associate with Bina too. Is like when I visualize like the supernal mother, so to speak, it's always like with a blacked out like hole for a face, basically. And then in the field outside of the thing she's within, the vulvic yonic thing, which looks very vulvic, are some skulls on the ground. So this really, really ties the like 3 to Bina kind of aspect, and has a lot more, especially with the colors, like death associated with it than like life and like vibrant, verdant lushness. But it still fits like really well with that same kind of figure. Yeah, it's very vibes. I don't have words for it, but maybe tell us what the book says and what you've learned about it.
Yeah, I was very excited to have this as kind of a counterpoint to the Mother Nature vibes, which are more, traditional green and verdant, because she is really giving like Death Queen, but also the sensuality is still there.
Yeah.
And in the Rust Belt, the artist talks about kind of how they picked this imagery, and this vulvic yonic bloom that she's kind of in is a plant called skunk cabbage.
Is that the same as the corpse flower, or is that because as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, it's kind of corpse flowery now that I think about it. But
it's possible. It's similar. I think the corpse flower actually grows. I think the corpse flower smells of corpses, and that's how it attracts flies to pollinate it. The skunk cabbage is one of the first plants to grow after like a very wet and dead winter. So it grows from like all the decay and takes advantage of like the light before all the canopy grows back and the forest floor is shaded. So everything kind of smells like rot. He's describing this like going out in the woods with his son. Everything in the wet, leafless wood is matted and sodden and the color of a road-killed possum, worn out from the winter. But this is like this ancient plant that actually generates its own heat. So it melts the snow around it from like the energy of an underground like tuber. And then is, also using that to then, generate its own metabolic heat and grow this very yonic looking like fleshy, like teardrop hood. And it smells like a rotting flower. So very similar to kind of what you're tracking with the corpse flower.
It kind of looks like the corpse flower too, with like this mottled purple and yellow kind of thing.
Yep.
And then on the inside, I guess that's what she's sitting on, is like this trippy little flower, I guess, that looks kind of like a virus almost.
Oh yeah, it really does. Oh wow, seeing the actual like image of it, seeing it from the art is one thing, but then it looks like a virus with all the little I don't know what those are called.
Proteins.
Yep, spike proteins.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a trip. And it's still the same concept of like reaching out from, I mean, in this case, maybe the underworld, quote unquote, into like something above it, but it's like life.
It's like life persisting, and also this concept of like death and life as like intimately intertwined is what I really appreciate about this, and how her dress is like kind of like dirty and tattered, and there's this sort of like regalness to like the Empress of like, oh, Mother Nature, but like she's like in the dirt. She is like, I will like love you into your decomposition and like your next stage. Like, I don't know, it's this very like yeah, like she's giving more of that like Saturn, like Empress as like rising into the crone almost, with the skulls. And then they don't say much about the man in the background. He does seem to be like in the throes of like passion or death. Or it could be the author. I think at the end of this little vignette, he is depicting like lying on the back, on his back, like in the sort of like winter morning, just like feeling like the ground beneath him. So it could be that that's what that's depicting. And then, yeah, being aware of kind of like this like death that you're inherently held by with the skulls.
And like the, I'm sure, I think we've probably touched on it before, but I'm excited for the episode we do about death, because this is very much giving the, and what we've been talking about around this is very much giving the vibe of like death as like sexuality, sensuality, life, and reproduction as like the opposite side of what we traditionally think of as death. But yeah, more on that in a episode about death.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that card for this concept. Is kind of like, this is like one of the things that I really love about the tarot is like in the reflection you see the same thing. Like it's or like in the inversion you get the same thing. Like there's a core concept that lives between the polarities. Which is one of the things that makes me think that it is like something kind of inherently magical, is that there is a universal truth to it, like a Tao that like we're trying to circle around with images and words, but like the Tao of the card lives within all of the cards.
Yeah, I think it speaks to that kind of like unnameable, like all in one in all, like that. Yeah, we're always going to be like circling around it and finding like the same thing, because like it is all the one thing.
Yeah.
And all of this is just our like playing with all of whatever's spewed out, you know?
Yeah, the different like colors that come through the prism.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there was one phrase, I guess, here that I wanted to add to about this card as relating to like life giving and like the fertility aspect of like motherhood in the Empress as it relates to death. And he quotes Joseph Campbell in The Power of Myth. Every generation has to die in order that the next generation can come. As soon as you beget or give birth to a child, you are the dead one. And he does some reflecting about having like seen his wife like bear children, and the tenacity and like what you go through in doing that, and like the sacrifice too, which I think is alluded to a little bit in. There's like this long-standing symbolism of the pelican, which is in the Thoth card.
Yeah.
About like sacrifice, and it's kind of like, I think it's a myth, it's not true, but it's about the pelican feeding its young with the blood from its own breast.
Yeah, because a pelican feeds its kids with a crop.
Yes.
Which is like almost a milk
Yeah, it's
of.
like a pouch that it's like, you know, birds have different digestive systems, so they have like an extra stage where they break down the kind of fibrous material, I think, and then that pouch can be used to then give the young that already broken down, like nutrient rich. Yeah, the crop milk. It is called that.
Crop milk,
Pigeons
yeah.
have it. A lot of different birds have it.
And it's red, so like they thought it was blood for the longest time. But yeah, that was one of the things I was excited to talk about in this episode too. So I'm sorry,
Of the sacrifice or of the pelican.
Yeah, of the pelican specifically, because I keep thinking about the pelican. It came up.
I've been so into pelicans lately, so this is like great timing too.
We were just on our walk the other day. We saw pelicans, and
Yeah.
we were talking about like, oh, I usually see like white pelicans here, but there's like brown pelicans, and they were like diving into the lake, and yeah, pelicans have been around lately. But I'm sorry, I totally interrupted your thought with like going in depth on the crop milk. You were saying
No, I think that was the full.
just like the sacrifice element of it.
Yeah, so the symbolism is, I guess, like a departure from the reality of what's happening, but it's long standing because it's the imagery of it. So the Thoth card has that pelican on it as like a nod to that kind of like the sacrifice of the mother. And I think like the death, this like lands for me more because like being like science oriented, I'm like, well, this is the reality of like the sacrifice of like things are going to die to be fertile for the next thing. Like that feels real, like it lands more. The pelican is sort of like a nice, like it's like a very aesthetic kind of symbolism because it's not rooted in what like how that bird actually, like it does feed its young something that sort of looks like that, but that's not the reality of what's happening. Like the pelican like dying and then fertilizing something, or the fish eating it, like something like that would be like a more, but like that's not how symbolism works. Like you like to have something that's like very, you know, things build up like power over time. So like the people believing that for a long time lend to that. So it's still, the pelican kind of has that kind of powerful magic to it of like, people thinking that for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Feeding its children its own blood. Which, I mean, like, it's giving up some of its nutrients. And, I mean, I guess that's the same thing with, like, all mothers, too. Is, like, you're giving part of your nutrient to your child. And, like, as you're growing the child, it, like, eats at your body, basically.
Yeah. And, I mean, even when it's still in you, before it even comes out, I mean, you're
It's sapping
creating
your
an organ,
bones
like the
and
amniotic, or not amniotic, the, why am I
placenta.
blanking? Placenta, thank you. I have to like touch and like as if I've ever had it. Yeah, the placenta, like to give birth, you're literally like growing an organ that then like transfers your blood nutrients like into this other being in you, which is wild. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's as close as, it's not that dissimilar from the idea of like the pelican feeding its young its own blood, but it's just coming from a different place. It's essentially the same concept.
Yeah, and like takes the calcium from your bones and like cross hormonal thing going on too. Like I think the infant feeds neurotransmitters into the mother and vice versa. Yeah, that I could go down a whole rabbit hole with that too. I've been reading a lot of Gabor Mate recently, and he talks a lot about how the world that the mother exists within during pregnancy affects like the child's development in neurology as it grows. A big rabbit hole
Yeah,
in my
I
head.
mean, there's like a pre-birth, like there's like pre-birth and like birth, like there's like, oh, like childhood trauma, but then there's like pre-birth and like, you know, then it kind of makes sense when you think about like people understand like generational trauma is a thing,
Yeah.
but like what is the condition of like the environment you are essentially created in, like in utero?
Epigenetic trauma that we're
Yeah, I mean, they're all like, I think of it as like a continuum. So, like,
Yeah.
what happened to your ancestors? What happened to your parents? What happened while you were, you know, in utero? And then there's birth, and then there's childhood. And yeah, I mean, it absolutely plays a role. Like, all of the cortisol and, you know, anything else that you're being exposed to. Like, you don't need conscious knowledge of what's happening. Like, you're experiencing it as, like, literally almost like the air you breathe and the blood that's feeding you.
Totally. I mean, yeah, like the how far back it goes physically is pretty wild too. Like you existed as, or part of you existed as a egg within your grandmother at some point because your grandmother held your mother and your mother's eggs were developed before she was even born. So whatever was happening to your grandmother while she was pregnant with your mother has, I mean, like, obviously has some effect on you just based on the transmission of, like, psychic energy from one person to another, from, like, a parent to their child, but, like, in the actual, like, hormones and, like, transmitters that are going through from your grandmother to your mother and ultimately to you, like, in that same direct kind of contact. And then, of course, you know, like, there's, but I mean, like this, it's just such a like closely linked chain that keeps getting built. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, and I think what's like most like powerful and also like unsettling is like for people who don't have like a lot of connection to their family, to think that like you are affected by things that you don't even know about.
Yeah.
Like that's very like even thinking about like acute events in your life and trauma, the way trauma works, of like being able to recognize like, okay, like I'm having a response right now, and like I know that it's from this, so I can like, that knowledge like allows me to take a step back and be like, okay, it's like not about this, it's about other things. If you don't have the knowledge of like what that's coming from, it's a lot harder to be like, oh, I'm not actually being affected by this thing right now. It's like a trigger from something else. If that's from like your grandmother or like your epigenetic circumstances, it's a lot harder to like understand like your responses to things, like even just how you're shaped as a person. Like personality is like so malleable and like influenced by, you know, environment. So thinking like this isn't like an inherent part of you, and this is I think where like trauma and spirituality are really closely entwined for me, or like the healing aspect of it is like knowing that you're not those like responses or like thoughts about something. It's like you're affected by so many other things. Like you're just like a physical being having a human experience, like a spiritual being having a human experience. And yeah, like there's like so many things that you're just never going to even know, like why it's like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you, all of those ingrained like responses or programmings are like just part of like your karma, what you're here to like work through or whatever, if you look at it that way. But yeah, back to your point about like how unsettling it is to like not know like why you're having this response. Like, why was I built with this prompt? Where did this come from? Like, why am I primed for like such a strong reaction towards this particular thing? It's really interesting to see that with like people who are hoarders. Like there's usually, it's typically like children of immigrants or like people who have come from poverty who have that hoarding instinct. And like, even if you've escaped poverty, like it's still there. Like, I think about my friend who's like, mom is has like a lot of hoarding instincts, and like she actively like has to try to like fight those instincts. She like every time she like gets something, she's like, do I really need this? Do I like, am I gonna hold on to this for a long time? Or like, and then also looking at the things that she already has to like kind of weigh like, is this something that I need to hold on to, or can I actually get rid of it? Which I mean, I think is, you know, to one degree universal, but like also for a lot of other people it's a big struggle. And my stepdad too, like his hoarding was like relegated to the garage typically, of like,
Oh, my dad was
materials
big,
and
and
stuff.
our garage was like
Yeah.
a treasure trove of like so many different. And like I don't even question it. Like I think like thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, that's just how dads are with their garages.
Yeah,
Like, but
dads just
like
put everything in the garage.
yeah, you just save it. Like you know, when are you gonna need that like little chunk of wood that's like just nailed just so to another little chunk of wood? You might
Yeah.
need that.
Perfect jig for something.
Yeah. And it's like I think like I can totally see like the universal reality of that, because like I think everyone has a junk drawer. Like you need to save all the little menus and the twist ties and the little Allen wrenches that come with your IKEA furniture.
So many Allen wrenches that are the same size.
Yeah, but
Just,
like what's one more?
yeah, I'm gonna need it one day. I'm gonna eventually need to disassemble this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there is also like just such a huge satisfaction that comes with, oh, I have just the thing for this.
Yeah.
Because I
Chasing
held
the
on to
high,
it for 20 years. I wonder if that can be said about epigenetic trauma. Like,
Like I'm
just
gonna
a thing
need
for
this. Like I mean that's like the weird like shadow polarity of like I'm gonna pass this down to my like somebody's gonna need this karmic lesson. Like let's just hold on to it a little longer. And then someone like we think about like, oh, like you're the pattern breaker of the family if you're going through this like trauma or whatever. But like no, you're just finally getting to use that weird chunk of wood like, in your psyche, and then now you can get rid of it. And now someone else doesn't. That's what it means to break the pattern. Like
you get to use it. Oh man. I've really liked the tangents we've had with this episode.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit more about the Empress. We talked about how it shows up in the Rust Belt Arcana, which is a like nice little flip on everything. Let's talk about the Rider Waite imagery,
Oh,
the one
yeah.
that people are going to probably come across first, which I think is a pretty good representation of the idea. There's a few like esoteric things in there that were pointed out in looking at. Okay, the Marseille Tarot. The Marseille Tarot has a cool thing too. It notes that like the scepter that she's holding is like rooted in her genitals, which is like talking about like the power of the sensuality and like creative aspect of it. But one thing that does carry over to the Rider Waite is that her legs are like not like explicitly spread,
Splayed.
not they're a little splayed, yeah. Like she's ready to give birth or have sex. But like it's opening that channel to the creative force of
Yeah.
the yoni, or I mean, in any human, the genitals. So she's sitting in a green, she's like a next to a creek in a field with like trees behind her. It's a very like idyllic scene. It's giving me like some of the mountains in California. Like I think I've stayed somewhere in San Luis Obispo that reminds me of this a lot.
Yeah, it's like very like the fertile, like I think of like, yeah, in this area, and like the like go west and like the kind of like bounteous expansion. Yeah, the area that she's in.
Yeah, you
is
have a
giving that.
forest, you have a field of wheat, like everything's kind of provided for. She's sitting on like really luxurious pillows. There's like a sensuous kind
Yeah.
of feeling to that. She's holding a scepter of power, and she has a crown on her head of 12 stars, which indicates her connection to the zodiac, which is often attributed to Hokmah, the second sphere, the supernal father, if you will. Yeah, so putting that with everything that we've kind of talked about. What's on her dress?
It's like, is it flowers?
They
Like
look
poppies?
like flowers,
almost?
like maybe some poppies or roses, but they
Or
are
pomegranates? Maybe.
There's like little leaves on the bottom of them that are also kind of giving like the Venus glyph, which she also does have a Venus glyph like next to her
On a big heart.
in
Yeah.
a big heart, yeah, which is kind of like a little on the nose. I
Yeah.
feel like for tarot, but like okay, let's go with it. But actually, the Venus attribution is something that is interesting to think about when we're talking about how this creative energy is like spilling into the rest of existence. You can get the whole tree of life out of the Venus glyph. I think it was in the Thoth deck, but it's something that it's one of the things that I'm like kind of proud of, like independently noticing, is you have if you have like a tree of life image in front of you, try to imagine this if you don't, like pull one up. But 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 6, 5, and 3 make up the circle of the glyph, and then you have the cross, which is made out of 9, 10, and then 7 and 8. So the whole tree of life kind of exists within that Venus glyph, which I mean, like, is also an ankh if you just round out the elongated kind of arc of an ankh. But yeah, what that's telling to me is like this push that's coming from the Empress, that connection between 2 and 3 is sort of what causes 3 to spill into 1,000 things, I think is what I've heard the expression go. But like that is the push to keep going. Like one split into 2 and 3 out of like kind of a curiosity, and then there was just this like lust and push that kind of made it move into everything else. And I think that's what 3 kind of really represents.
Yeah, as that like horizontal, and I'm like thinking of that imagery of like the spilling over, like if a faucet is like turned on onto a flat surface, it's gonna kind of shower everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the ejaculation of the material world.
Yeah, totally. Which like that's another cool little like flip, not necessarily flipped, but like the concept of like feminine ejaculation too.
Yeah.
Of like that's
Yeah, it's not just pee.
It's not just pee. It's the whole universe. They say they've done their chemical analysis and like, yeah, like maybe they think it's pee, but that's because it's everything. And if you look
There's
at
a
it,
little bit of pee, but I mean, it's mostly the universe.
yeah. Anything else we want to touch on with this? I mean, like we've been chatting for a while and it's a good conversation we have going on here, but yeah, we've like touched on a lot. I'm wondering if there's anything else that's come up for you around this card that we didn't get to touch on yet.
I think that covers it. I'm going to rummage for my marigold for a sec.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I always love seeing the marigold deck, too. Let's go ahead and go down that rabbit hole.
I don't know. I feel like we have had a pretty comprehensive romp through it. But yeah, because the marigolds sometimes adds a little bit, but it is often very like rooted in the Rider-Waite imagery. So a lot of this is pretty traditional as far as like she's on a very luxurious kind of throne. Her legs are a little bit splayed, and she does have a lot of like verdant greenery around her. But yeah, it's kind of hearkening to luxury in the material world. She also is holding a dagger. I think the scepter is traditional in most of them, and she does seem to be holding the dagger out from her loins. Like it is rather almost like phallic the way she's holding it out from herself. Yeah, they describe it as she wields a short dagger in a quiet, unassuming fashion. And this, I think, harkens to like one of the first kind of key terms that came up was like Empress, of like, we think of like Mother Nature, but I think of like Mama Bear. Like it's going to be protective, but there's like a ferocity to that. So like that protection and nurturing twinned aspect. But yeah, I think this is, yeah, very much still on the pathway of like that fertility and creativity, I guess, is an aspect we didn't talk explicitly about. But this card being like, if it were to come up in like a divination setting of like, you know, what is the energy for the day, or if you're doing a reading, the Empress isn't, you know, the cards aren't literally often about what they depict, but like fertility is often about like new beginnings and like creativity, projects, things like that. And then, you know, shadow aspects, I guess I would see, like here they talk about like reversals as being like indecision or inadequacy. So I would say like that's for me very on the nose with like the death aspect of like, if you're resisting something dying, that's going to lead to like a stagnancy, or resisting kind of that revolution into something actually being born.
I could also see a shadow aspect of this card being like an unfocused nature, like where focus is needed, because it's such an expansive energy. And it, I think a couple of sources talk about it reaching out blindly, like it doesn't really matter where it goes, because it's just going to go everywhere, and it's going to like run into things as it does. So there's like a kind of blind enthusiasm that goes with it too.
Yeah. And I imagine when we talk about the Emperor card, like in a few episodes, it'll bring up some similar of the like other side of this, of like, if the Empress is this like wandering down this hallway, tiptoeing to, you know, a bedchamber, you know, what is the energy that meets that? Which I guess, you know, to tease it, I guess we could think about like, you know, is that structure? Is that discipline? Is that like I meet this like boundless desire and I like give it a pathway to go down, which again feels kind of like the fun polarity of it, of like if the feminine is this desire and like we think of like when I think about a pathway to go down, we can think about like, again, we're talking about like birth canal or like, you know, when you're having sex, that canal is what is being enjoyed. But then what is it like to be like the masculine as like providing that pathway? Like, is the Empress going to go peg somebody? Like it can look so many different ways. Like what's going to happen in that bedchamber?
Yeah, right. Everything.
Everything.
But not pee. Yeah, I mean, I think, again, teasing the episode a little bit here, but we didn't really talk too much about the Emperor in this one, where we did touch on the Hierophant as kind of a male polarity to the priestess. And yeah, I think you're exactly as you're saying, like the Emperor is also, it's not a blind focus, but it's a hyper fixated kind of focus where it's just like, it's the Emperor is correspondent to Aries, which is just this like, I'm doing whatever's in front of me. I'm going to like go for this one specific thing. And I'm not going to like think about anything else at all, which is why it's kind of a little bit of a fascist in a lot of ways. But yeah, I mean, to think about it like sexually and sensually, I think, I mean, I have a baggage with the masculine for a myriad of reasons. But,
who doesn't?
Yeah, right. Girl. But like, yeah, I think of it as just this like, the Empress is like there for the experience, and then like the Emperor just wants to come.
Okay. Yeah,
Like,
interesting. See, like I'm curious about like how those can be like commingled effectively, because like when I think about like my Venus is in Aries, to like
Okay.
have a little like adjacent, you know, astrology tie-in of like, so what does it mean to have your like sensuality tied to that directness, like, which, you know, I grapple with.
well, let's talk a little
But-
bit about that, actually. That's an interesting thing to bring up, since it is like Venus being the Empress and then
Aries is-
Aries being
yeah.
the Emperor, yeah. What do you think, in relating to people, like, what do you think is like one of the things that you really enjoy about like an interaction with someone? Like, where do you find like, yeah, this is like what other people are for?
Oh, dang. Okay. What are other people for?
Yeah, to be entirely like egoic about it and like, you know.
I mean, if I'm going to be entirely egoic, but then also still be able to bring in like the way that I view that as like a spiritual dimension of myself, it's like a mirror to like experience myself. Like, what is this other person going to like teach me about myself? And like, what am I going to get to experience with them that like gets me there? So like, I don't know if that's like, it's only a little bit of a couple steps removed. Like, it's not like I guess like it's not just like, oh, I want to come, but it's like I want to come to an understanding. So if someone isn't like
Nice.
on that path, then I get like frustrated and very impatient, because I'm like, hello, what are we learning? Like, what are we gonna have fun? Like, not just in like the sensual sense, but like as far as like companionship and like, you know, having that depth is like important to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think not everyone can meet you there, and sometimes that is the lesson of like, you can't push anyone to like go somewhere that they're not ready to go to in any kind of relationship.
That's like that says to me like the breaking through aspect of Aries. I feel like Aries, and maybe this is painted by an experience that I've had like with a particular person, but the way they describe their experience as an Aries is like always breaking through. Like they break through one thing and then like doesn't matter, the next thing is there to break through. So
Are they Aries sun?
they're
Like,
an Aries sun,
okay,
yeah.
yeah. So I have a lot of Aries, but like, I mean, a Pisces sun. So I'm like, there's always like that kind of soft, you know.
Yeah, well, that's like what you're
dreamy,
saying. Is
yeah.
There's like, you have that aspect of like, what am I going to learn about myself, or like, what depth are we going to get into with it? I think that probably tapers off some of the like drive of the.
Yeah, because
the
I have
Aries.
Venus Aries, I think Mercury Aries, and I think there's one other Aries that I have too. I'm trying to remember. I don't know my chart completely, but so yeah, the communication and the love drive are very like, come on, come on, come on.
So like a lot of what I get to experience of you is Aries, because we have like our friendship aspect and like we're also very like verbal with how we interact too. So I think
You
what
get
I
a
would
lot of my Pisces.
I get a lot
too,
of your
yeah.
Pisces. Well, I mean, like everyone's going to get a lot of your Pisces because that's like.
Well, not
your-
everybody.
Oh, okay. But I mean, that's like the filter that everything goes through with
True,
you, right?
true. I guess like I think I've come to more appreciation of rising signs as well as what other people see of you. I'm a Libra rising, so I think if people don't know me well, that is probably they get a very like
Yeah.
balanced, a little bit more detached. So
Totally. That makes sense. Because, yeah, you are very, like, balanced and, like, you can
Sometimes.
see both sides of things. Like, I mean, like, as far as what you're giving off.
yeah,
But they don't know that it's just, like, a nebulous Pisces with no decision. It's not indecision. It's just that, like, everything applies, man.
but I can't do that like to function.
No.
Like at work, I'm probably not giving a lot of Pisces, so it's like it's an interesting lens to see like okay, like which parts of me are coming out in different contexts. So
Yeah, it's interesting how like your rising sign kind of comes through. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what you're doing for work and where you put that. But like, I'm a like Capricorn sun, so like in theory, work is where it should come through for me. But like, I probably fall into Pisces at work more often, where I'm just like, yeah, whatever, like where things go. But it's probably because I don't care that much about it, and like, I'm only giving that aspect of myself.
interesting.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about
That was a fun little bonus
everything.
tangent. Yeah.
I like that it kind of delved into like everything because that is kind of what the nature of this card is. I don't think we were going to be able to like focus in on one particular like lens of it because it is a very encompassing thing.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I like that we find fruitful pathways. Like I think the tangents are pretty fruitful, and
Yeah.
it was very on point for this one.
It definitely is. Yeah. Very much like Squirt being the universe.
Yeah,
That's going to live in my head forever.
forever.
Well, hey, thanks again for joining us here on the Feral Tarot. We always love having you. As always, you can keep up with us on Instagram. We'll get back to posting very soon. This was the first episode. We were back in a while. You're going to hear the Prince of Cups before this one after what was a long break. But this was the first time we were back in a while. It's good to be back, and we hope you're still out there listening. But yeah, keep up with us on Instagram, The Feral Tarot. Send us an email, get in touch with us, theferaltarotpodcast@gmail.com.
Do we want to pull the next small card?
Yeah, let's do that. I always forget about it. Let's get a deck out. Do you want to use the Rust Belt since it's right here with us?
Sure. Yeah.
And give her a little shuffle. And it is a small card for us.
Excellent.
It is the Queen of Cups.
Ooh.
And the Queen of Cups in this deck is Robin Wall Kimmerer, who I
We love.
freaking love. Yeah. I'm really excited to kind of see how she vibes with this one. Immediately I'm thinking like, yeah, she gives me a really like kind of held energy. Like just hearing her voice is like soothing. Cool. So the Queen of Cups is going to be where we go in next, which is appropriate. Our last one was the Prince of Cups, so we're just going to step up. Awesome. So yeah, stay tuned as we get into the Queen of Cups next time.
Very excited about it. Stay feral, friends.